Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel where we sit down together and talk about true crime stories every so often. It used to be every Wednesday, but I've been so inconsistent now that I don't think I have the right to say every Wednesday because I would be lying to your faces. It's definitely been a while since I've uploaded a video. My last video was talking about the unsolved and biggest heist in South African history. If you haven't checked it out, please do. I would appreciate that very much. But today's video is a bit on the scary side. It's a bit on the bizarre side. It's out of this world actually. Today we're going to be talking about the case of Lehlohonolo Scott, the case that a lot of people suspect was a ritualistic killing, and it also has some bits and pieces of cannibalism somewhere in there. It's just disgusting, and also it's extremely scary because some of these things are truly surreal. I talk a lot about true crime cases, but if you guys know me, you know that I'm from Lesotho and I've been covering South African stories, which is mainly because I never want to cover anything from home because I just feel like it's gonna scare me way more. And to be honest, this case proved me right. I was super scared as I was reading more and more about this because I was like, damn, these things happen here. La, mo, hanamo. I don't know how else to explain this case to you guys, to give you guys a brief summary. So you know what, we're just gonna get right into it. On the 11th of January 2012, a young boy, a 13-year-old boy to be exact, named Moholobela Seetsa disappeared from his home in KwaLabata, right here in Lesotho. Moholobela lived with his mother because his dad was in Mogotlong. He lived there. He worked and lived there, so he came by ever so often, but truly he just lived with his mother. And when he disappeared at the time, he was living with his mother. A bunch of people reported seeing Moholobela near some dongas riding a bicycle. So when a search for him was conducted, a lot of people were looking around the dongas and obviously just going through the general area. They were conducting a thorough search for this very young boy. The search was conducted by villagers as well as the police because Moholobela was actually reported missing, but for a few days nothing was found. His mother, Moholobela Seetsa, called his father on the 11th of January to tell him or to report to him that their son had not reported back home, and so he made an arrangement, the father that is, made an arrangement to go back home on the 12th of January. He asked for leave, I think, to go back home on the 12th of January to go help look for his son. As I've already mentioned, at the time Moholobela was only 13. He was in Form B at Methodist Church High School. Upon arriving, Moholobela's father, named Bereng, found the other villagers already conducting the search, and he obviously joined them and started looking for his son. Like I said, nothing was found for a few days, and on the 15th of January, the father received a phone call from some of the villagers reporting to him that some body parts had been found at the dongas near where Moholobela was last seen. On arrival, he found the villagers together with the police already gathered around the body parts, and he positively identified the body parts as those of his son Moholobela. But the police also took blood samples from himself and his wife Moholobela just to confirm that the body that had been found was indeed the body of Moholobela Seetsa. So the body parts were found, like I said, at the dongas in the area, but they were found in different areas at the dongas and also at different times. They first found the torso. It was cut at the neck and right above the knees, and it had been cut open. I don't know if you guys know how they perform like postmortems, but they cut like in the middle of the body. I don't know if they start here or here, but the body had been cut right down the middle and it was missing a heart. They first found the torso, and then they found the hands missing, the arms missing the hands, and the legs missing the feet. At the time, police had 0 suspects. They had no idea, no clue, no leads as to who could have done this to this poor young boy, and so no arrests were made. However, something bizarre would happen only 6 7 months later, as another boy from the very same village went missing. Kamohelo Mohata, a 19-year-old boy attending at Limpopo University, went missing on the 10th of July 2012. Kamohelo lived with his younger brother, 17-year-old Refilo Mohata, at their parents' home, and their father worked in South Africa, so they were living all by themselves. On the morning of the 10th of July 2012, both of them got up and got ready for school as per usual, and Kamohelo left Refilo behind and left for school as per usual, and then Refilo left shortly after Kamu had already left. In the morning hours after Refilo had left the house, he received an SMS from Kamohelo telling him that he had gone to Johannesburg on a school trip, but he had left his passport behind, so Refilo must not lock the door because he didn't know what time he would be coming back to pick up his passport. Refilo had no airtime at this time, so he didn't get back to his brother, but at around 3 p.m. he bought airtime, called his brother, but unfortunately at the time the call didn't go through. At around 4 p.m. a stranger arrived at his home asking for Kamohelo, and Refilo told him that Kamohelo wasn't home, and also asked for the stranger's name so he could report to Kamohelo that a certain person had come around to see him. And that's when the stranger gave him the name of Lehlohonolo. Lehlohonolo came back again at around 6 to 7 p.m. to ask if Kamohelo hadn't come back home, and that's when Refilo told him, hey, he's gone to Johannesburg, so yeah, he won't be home for a while. So Lehlohonolo just took the information, I guess, and he left. And that's it for the events of the 10th of July 2012. On the 11th of July, Lehlohonolo came back again at around 4 p.m. and he asked Refilo for Kamohelo's South African number, which Refilo told him that he didn't have. He came back again on the same night between 6 and 7, and he told Refilo that he had borrowed Kamohelo his hard drive, so now he wanted it. And Refilo told him that he had never seen such, he had never heard of any such thing, and that if his brother was in possession of Lehlohonolo's hard drive, he would know. So Lehlohonolo just left. About 5 minutes after Lehlohonolo had left, Refilo received a strange SMS telling him to go to a nearby bus stop to go fetch his brother's books. Refilo was actually smart for this because he went to his neighbor's house instead of going to that bus stop. He went to his neighbor's house to go like, his neighbor lived in a block of flats, and his neighbor's house had a window directly facing the bus stop, so he knew that he could see any cars coming and going, any cars stopping, and if the person, or if a car or a taxi was to stop, he would, quickly rush there and go fetch his brother's books. And he just stood there watching and watching and watching, but no taxi, no car, nothing ever stopped. He then received a strange call from this strange person telling him that he had delayed, he had wasted time, so the taxi just left, and that what else did he say? He said he had delayed, he wasted time, the taxi left, and that Refilo should not bother. But Refilo was actually weirded out, I guess, because he had been watching the bus stop and no taxi ever stopped, so it was a bit weird. I think the whole situation was just a bit weird because he lived in the same house with Kamohelo and it was just the two of them, so surely Kamohelo would have told him that, dude, tomorrow I'm gonna go to Johannesburg for a school trip, or he would have mentioned something about him going to Johannesburg at any point in time before the actual day, but he never said anything. And on top of that, this stranger Jiggy just all of a sudden shows up to his place asking for Lehlohonolo as a matter of urgency. This stranger, asking for Kamohelo as a matter of urgency, this stranger that he had never seen before. It was a bit weird. And then 5 minutes after this, remember that Lehlohonolo showed up between 6 and 7, so it's probably already dark. It's July. It's currently July as I'm filming this, and by 6 p.m. it's dark outside. So if between 6 and 7 this person was like, where's Lehlohonolo, I need my hard drive, and then 5 minutes after leaving you receive a text telling you to go to a bus stop out at night in the dark and you don't know where your brother is, I would also be scared. And I'm just glad that he made the decision to go to his neighbor's house instead of going to the bus stop, because God knows what would have happened had he decided to go to the bus stop instead. So after he received this SMS, he decided that, okay, I guess this person just told him not to bother anymore. So he took his stuff and he went back home to sleep. The following day, on the 12th of July, was when he found 2 policemen outside his house as he returned from school, and these people identified themselves as police officers and asked for a senior member of the family, which is when Refilwe actually gave them, I think, his uncle's numbers, or he himself called his uncle, but the uncle was called to the premises and the news were broke down to the uncle that Kamohelo's body had been found. So I'm unaware of the exact timeline, but the police did receive a tip-off from somebody, we don't know. And so on the 12th of July 2012, the police headed over to Lehlohonolo Scott's place to conduct a search. So I think some of the police headed over to Limpopo to arrest Lehlohonolo Scott, while others waited for Lehlohonolo. He was arrested after like getting off a taxi, but I'm not sure whether they were arrested before or after the search conducted, so we're just going to get into the details of the search. When the police got to Lehlohonolo Scott's house, they found a green Corsa car parked, I think it's a Corsa Baki, a truck parked outside the house, and the car was actually unlocked at the time. I may have to look down to tell you guys the items that were found in each location, so please don't be mad at me. The green Corsa, like I said, was found outside and was unlocked. So the police opened the driver's door, and within the car they found a man's privates. They had been cut off. They found 2 human arms with no hands, similar. They also found a leg with no foot, and some clothing items were also recovered from inside the car. From the car, they went inside the house, and some witnesses say that they observed the police coming or emerging from the house with bloody plastic bags. Inside the house, they entered a room that appeared to be a storeroom. Inside the house, they entered a room that appeared to be a storeroom, just by how messy it was and how like stuff had been just packed inside the room. And a brown box that was blood stained was observed from the room, and when the box was lifted, a blood stain on the floor was also discovered or seen. It appears that some of the items that I'm gonna be talking about that were found inside the house were actually found on the 14th of July and not the 12th. The timeline is a bit tricky, you guys. The timeline is a bit tricky. I tried my best to pinpoint exactly what happened at what time, but it's a bit tricky, like I said. So just take this as collective evidence. Don't really put a time stamp on it. But inside the house, like I said, in the storeroom, they found the blood stain. They also found a knife. It was actually pointed out to them by Lehlohonolo Scott. They found the knife, and it had like a brown, what is that thing called, like the handle, is it the handle? It had a brown wooden handle. And they also found clothes belonging to Kamohelo. He also pointed them out and told them who the clothes belonged to. He also took the police, he led the police from the storage room into his bedroom, and in his bedroom he pointed out Kamohelo's jeans. He was wearing blue Levi's jeans on the day that he went missing, and he pointed out a belt and underwear which he claimed belonged to Moholobela and was actually positively identified as clothing items belonging to Moholobela the following day on the 15th of July. And then from the house on the 12th of July, from the house, like after emerging from the house, the police went over to the pit toilet outside. It's not a weird concept in Lesotho, but I know that my audience from other countries might be like, a toilet outside, a pit toilet outside? But I promise you, it's not a weird thing. It's not different. Almost every household in Lesotho has a pit toilet outside. Yeah, so from the house they went to the toilet, and inside the family toilet, upon opening the door, the toilet was actually made from steel still, I'll put a picture of the type of material that it was made out of on the screen because I don't know how to explain it, but zinc, I don't know, but actually, yeah, the pit toilet, when they opened the door, the pit was covered in newspapers, multiple newspapers. Police took pictures of everything, of course, it's a crime scene. After lifting the newspapers, there was a yellow plastic bag filled or covered in blood that was discovered, and also there were blood stains on the floor. Inside the pit, the police found a white plastic bag containing blood. All of these exhibits were removed and taken to, obviously taken by the police as exhibits, as evidence. Lehlohonolo also took the police to the dongas in Kwalabata, where the first victim's body was found, and that's where Kamohelo's body was found. These dongas are actually 3 to 5 kilometers away from Lehlohonolo's house. I hope I'm not confusing you guys, because for this video I don't actually have a script. I just, like, for some reason this information stuck in my head, and some of it I have to look down for it, but it's a bit confusing. I think I'm not a good storyteller, but I hope everything is making sense to you guys. But anyways, these dongas were 3 to 5 kilometers away from Lehlohonolo Scott's house, and that's where the police found Kamohelo's torso. And similar to Moholobela's body, his torso had been cut, the head had been removed, and the knees had also been removed, and it had been cut open in the middle, and the heart was missing and certain other internal organs. This torso was found inside a black plastic bag, and it had been buried in a shallow grave, which is all too similar to Moholobela's body. On the 13th of July, Lehlohonolo also took the police to Kwalabata Primary School, which this was, I think by far, this was the scariest part for me. The audacity to do this at a primary school. The audacity to do this at a primary school. But anyways, he took them to Kwalabata Primary School toilets. He pointed out the pit toilets at the primary school, and he said, go over there, go look in the pits, you'll find something. So the police went there, and inside the toilet, what they discovered was a leg, another leg. Remember, a leg was found in the car, I think, yeah. So now they found another leg without a foot. They found lungs, they found intestines, they found a liver that had a small chunk of it cut off, but the chunk was also recovered in another one of the plastic bags that were retrieved from the pit. They found a heart, they found a piece of throat, they found hands, yeah, because the arms that had been found were missing hands. So they found hands, they found feet, and then they also found a human head belonging to Kamohelo. I'm not sure when exactly did Lehlohonolo make this confession, but multiple reports say that at some point he did also confess to having eaten Moholobela's heart. So that's the cannibalism aspect. But there's other multiple body parts that I haven't found any answers as to where they were or whether they were found, such as, for example, Moholobela's sexual organs. They had also been cut off. I forgot to mention that, but they had also similarly been cut off. And I don't know whether he did something with the sexual organs, or he consumed them, or he threw them away and they just like disappeared into thin air. I don't know what happened to them. And certain other things like Moholobela's feet, hands. I mean, I know that the arms were found, the legs were found, but what about the hands and feet? There's certain things that I don't have answers to. I cannot say without a shadow of a doubt that they were not found, because there is barely any information regarding Moholobela's death. But I think that if they were not found, he could have potentially also consumed them. Lord knows what he did with these body parts. God knows, only God knows why he did the things that he did. Like, why dismember the body parts? Why remove this? Why remove that? Why did you do it? Nobody knows. Nobody knows. So like I said, Lehlohonolo and his mother were arrested, but unfortunately Lehlohonolo would escape before the matter could proceed. He escaped on the 13th of October 2012 to be exact, which was 3 months after his arrest. For some reason, it seems like his dates are like between the 10th and the 13th. Like, it's like maybe his favorite numbers or his angel numbers or his devil numbers or whatever. Because why is everything happening between those dates? But anyway, but anyway, a warrant of arrest was issued for him because there was suspicion that he had actually escaped to SA. I think it's a common thing all of the time. Oftentimes you hear that people from Lesotho have escaped to South Africa. It's really not shocking anymore. And the application was made to Interpol so that the police in both sides of the countries, or in both countries, could work together and help one another find Lehlohonolo, because he's a danger, he's an apparent danger to society. So whether he's in Lesotho walking free or in South Africa walking free, he poses a clear and apparent threat to the society at large, the whole society. Because I mean, if somebody could do this to his neighbors, come on, what more can he do? Kagwa, you know. The relevant documentation was later forwarded to the KZN police because I think they had gotten suspicion or information that led them to believe that Lehlohonolo was in KZN. And after months of, you know, working together, the tracking team finally arrested Lehlohonolo Scott on the 7th of April 2014 at a church in Amaoti, Inanda, which is located in KZN. Lehlohonolo was actually living on the church premises and he was playing in the church band. He was actually apparently very shocked when the police came by and arrested him because I think he thought he was above the law. I think he thought he could win. And also maybe so maybe he thought the police couldn't find him, they couldn't see him, they were too blinded by his rituals or whatever. So it's not that easy for a person to be extradited. It's not that easy for a person to be sent back to their country after having been captured in another country. It's not like they just arrest them, put them in a van and then send them to their country. There's actually long processes, court processes and other procedures that have to be followed. So Lehlohonolo was not sent back to Lesotho immediately in 2014. I think he was sent back in 2016. I stand to be corrected. But thankfully he was sent back to Lesotho where a trial was conducted and justice could finally be served to those two families. So I just want to get into the striking similarities first before going into, I mean, the story that I've already given to you guys, that I've already played out for you guys, is what I got from the court details, I mean from the court documents. So it's the prosecution's evidence. I am just going to give you guys the striking similarities between the two victims, and then I'll go on to the counts, and then I'll go on to briefly summarize what Lehlohonolo's argument was, and then the sentence. I don't know, I just gave you guys the whole layout. But anyways, the similarities. So firstly, both victims, like I said, they had their sexual organs removed. Let's just get that out of the way. They had their sexual organs removed. Their torsos were buried at the Dongas, which is weird. Their torsos were buried at the same location, and both of them they were decapitated, and their legs were missing, were removed from the torso, and the torso had been cut from the throat to the waist, and certain organs had been removed from inside their bodies, the heart being the one that I'm sure of that was removed from both victims. The arms had also been cut off, and similar to both cases, the hands had been removed. Same thing applies to the legs. They had been cut off and the feet had been removed. And what is also strikingly similar is the dates that the victims went missing. Kamohelo went missing on the 10th of July and Moholobela went missing on the 11th of January. Okay. So a lot of people thought this was ritualistic for many reasons. Firstly, I mean, it is alleged that Lehlohonolo did confess to cooking and eating the body parts, certain body parts. So of course people are like, no normal person could do that. No normal person could do that. He's missing something in the head. He's sick in the head. And him and his mother were doing some ritualistic stuff. That's what people were assuming. And honestly, I think also the striking similarities between the two cases only like heightened people's suspicions of it being a ritualistic killing. And I'm not gonna lie, I kind of also think there's a possibility that this could be a ritualistic killing. And for me, the main thing that leads me to believe that it could have potentially been a ritualistic killing is the dates. Because if Moholobela Seeta was killed on the 11th of, let's just say Moholobela was killed on the 11th of January, right? That's the beginning of the year. And Kamohelo went missing on the 10th, but his exact date of death is not known. It is unknown, so he could have also potentially died on the 11th or on the 10th immediately after going missing. But let's just say, for the sake of my theory, he went missing on the 11th. I mean, he was killed on the 11th. That for me seems like a timed ritual. It doesn't seem like they just killed people. You know how serial killers are? They'll kill and then they'll have this thrill for it, and then they'll do it again very soon afterwards, and then they'll do it again, and then at some point they'll take a long break, and then they'll show up again, and then they do it like this. So these ones, they took a relatively long break, which leads me to think Moholobela was a ritual for the first 6 months of the year, and Kamohelo was supposed to be killed as part of a ritual, whatever ritual it was, for the second half of the year. And I think this was gonna happen continuously. Had they not been caught, I think this would have happened. This would have gone through, happened for years. God knows how long it would have taken for the police to stop them. But also, another thing that I don't have any certainty pertaining to, is that correct English? I don't have any certainty regarding whether Lehlohonolo really killed just 2 people. I believe that during those 2 years that he was in South Africa, he could have potentially killed other people. And you could find that those cases still remain unsolved to this day, or that the cases were the victims were pinned on another person. I don't know, but I don't think that Moholobela so sorry, I don't think that Lehlohonolo just went on with his life in South Africa and became this changed Christian who was living in church, playing in the church band, and did nothing to anyone. This is somebody who's already killed 2 people, and not only killed them, dismembered, but he also dismembered and decapitated and hid their bodies in various different locations. If he could do that in Lesotho, I guarantee you that he could also do that in South Africa. But I'm not saying I guarantee you that he did it. I'm just saying he could have also done that. So yeah, you guys just let me know what you think on that one, especially my second theory. Lehlohonolo was actually charged with 3 counts. He was charged with 2 counts of murder, 1 for the murder of Moholobela, 1 for the murder of Kamohelo, and 1 count of escape from lawful custody, while his mother was charged with 2 counts of murder. Alright? And basically Lehlohonolo's argument, the defense's whole argument was basically that the pointing out that Lehlohonolo had done, he was coerced to show the police all these various places. He was coerced to confess, and that he was tortured and abused during his custody and before doing those pointing out, and therefore that such evidence was basically inadmissible because it had been attained unlawfully. But the court just pushed that aside, because there had been various witnesses who came forth and said that on the day it had seemed that Lehlohonolo was doing this completely voluntarily. The police had warned him of his rights. They had told him that he has a right to maintain his silence. He didn't have to show them, he didn't have to say anything, but he decided on his own free will to do those things. There had been multiple villagers who came through as witnesses for the prosecution who all had the same story. So Lehlohonolo's argument could not stand. And also the prosecution had established beyond doubt that these exhibits had been found at Lehlohonolo's house. So regardless, this person had committed the offense of murder. He had murdered people, and these things were found at his house. But anyway, after considering all the evidence, the prosecution's evidence as well as the defense's evidence, the court found accused number 2, which is Lehlohonolo Scott, guilty of being an accessory to murder. And this is because the evidence was all directly linked to Lehlohonolo. It was more so circumstantial when it came to her. A lot of people were like, how could someone live in the same house with somebody and not smell blood, or not see these various clothing items, or not see the blood stains that were found in the toilet, in the storeroom? How could you live in the same house with someone and not see that? But this is all circumstantial. This, like, it's very possible for people not to see such. You know, you cannot say beyond a reasonable doubt that a person can not see stuff like that going on in the house. You know, you cannot establish that beyond a reasonable doubt. And also, when considering circumstantial evidence in criminal cases, an inference, whatever inference you seek to draw from the circumstantial evidence, must be consistent with the facts that have been proven. And also, it must be impossible for you to draw any other inference from such facts that have been proven. So with this one, you could, I mean, there is an open door for you to establish or assume or infer, draw out an inference of a different kind than saying, oh, she definitely helped in murdering these people. So she could not be found guilty of murdering both Lehlohonolo, both Moholobela and Kamohelo, and so she was found guilty of being an accessory to murder and sentenced to 10 years imprisonment with 3 years suspended on the condition that she's not found guilty of any other violent crime towards another person. And then Lehlohonolo was found guilty of all the 3 counts that he had been charged with, and he was sentenced to life without the possibility of parole for the first 2 counts of murder. And then he was sentenced to 5 years for the 3rd count, which is escape from lawful custody. He has been trying to appeal the conviction and sentence, and the judge actually, one of the judges actually said that it is extremely disrespectful for him to try to appeal such when he knows very well what he has done. He has committed the biggest crime against mankind. But anyway, that is it for today's video. That's all that Lehlohonolo Scott done. He's an absolutely horrible man, and I hope that his days, the rest of his days in prison, are miserable and unbearable, and that he never gets to see the light of day. He never gets to step outside, because he is a true danger to society. He's unpredictable, I think. And I still don't understand what was the point of going to Refilwe. A huge part of me thinks he wanted to make Refilwe his 3rd victim, but I'm so happy that he didn't manage to do that. And yeah, that is it for today's case. That is it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, or at the very least found it, because this was not an enjoyable one. At the very least, I hope you found it informative if you're somebody who has been wanting to know more about this. And yeah, that is it from me. I hope to see you guys again next week Wednesday, but I'm not making any promises. I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye. Hope you subscribe if you already subscribed. Bye.